As Mackenzie said, my name is Jim Routh. I'm with the Startup BD team here. Talk a little bit about partnerships and business development. My background, I spent 15 years running business development in 7 different startups across a number of different industries. And I spend some of my time now advising companies on business development strategies, partnership strategies, how to grow your company through partnering with other companies, associates, big companies. And I guess it's difficult to give blanket advice in this space simply because depending on the company, the stage, the size, the opportunity, what the partnership entails, the answer can vary. So when people ask me about, should we be out partnering to help grow our business, my answer is invariably it depends. I think the biggest mistake that I've seen startups make is try and get into this partnership and business development too early in the stage of the company because it can become a huge distraction. But before I jump into a few more things, what I'd like to understand is from the perspective of the audience, how many of you are in seed stage startups? What about Series A? Beyond Series A? Anybody here a business development professional by trade? So business development can encompass a bunch of different things, and there are a lot of different things that you can look for in partnerships when you're out trying to build your business. The number one piece of advice I give to startups is don't do it. Wait as long as you can. Build your business as solidly and as definitively as you can before you go out and start bringing third parties in to help you grow. Simply because if you don't have your business in order, bringing somebody in to try and partner to build your business becomes a huge distraction. So you need to be very sure in your convictions about where you're going. You need to understand exactly the things you will do and won't do so that you don't get pulled into one-off projects that are supposed to be leading to some great opportunity down the road, which rarely materializes. And you go in very skeptically and with your eyes wide open about what you're going to get out of the relationship. Once you find somebody that you think you've got goals aligned with, then I think the next thing you need to make sure you do is you align your goals and you get them to make commitments and put skin in the game very early on. If you don't do that, you wind up with the potential that you'll commit a bunch of resources to a project only to find out that that partner isn't terribly invested. I did very early on in my career a deal with AT&T. We were a small little startup. We were about 30 people. We had an agreement with them to resell our product. They assigned 18 people to the project. And we looked at that and thought, oh my gosh, these guys are committed. They're putting resources into it. And the project drug on and on and on. And what I eventually came to realize is the 18 people they had put on the project were 18 people they didn't know what to do with. So they put them on the project to park them somewhere. I had taken it as an indication that they were serious about doing something with us. They took it as an opportunity to park some people they didn't know what to do with and engage them, right? So you want tangible and material commitments from them, ideally monetary commitments from them that shows that they're serious. Because the thing that you do find after a while is in most organizations, if they're going to commit resources, that can sometimes be done at a relatively low level. If they're going to commit cash, that generally has to go up to a much higher level. And so the level of commitment that you gain with cash is significantly different than the level of commitment that you're gaining with just about any other partnership opportunity. So look for alignment, look for commitment, look for cash. If you're not able to get those things, you probably should spend your time on other opportunities within the company. So with that, as my sort of general advice, what I'd like to do is if anybody out there has specific situations you want to talk about, because the other part about business development and partnerships is blanket advice is really tough to give because every situation is different. So if you have some situations you want to talk about, you have some specific questions, I'd love to entertain those. If not, we can wrap this up early. Yeah. So the question is, when is the best time to hire a VP of sales? So typically, one of the things that I've done in my career is, as the usually the first business person hired, one of my roles has been to prove out the business model. And in doing so, bringing on sort of the first 5 to 10 customers. Now, this is in an enterprise software play as opposed to, say, a consumer play. Once I've been able to bring those first 5 to 10 customers on board and construct a model that looks replicable, that's when I go and hire a VP of sales, right? So salespeople and a really good VP of sales is great at scaling a replicable, proven model. They're generally not really good at creating the model itself, right? So I would wait until you had the model figured out, had customers on board, and then you can bring somebody in that's great at scaling that. If you hire a salesperson, a VP of sales too early before the model's figured out, they'll oftentimes struggle and feel like they don't have the tools that they need in order to get the business done. So they're the lather, rinse, and repeat type person to have inside the company. Sure. So the question is, like, how do you approach a large company like an AT&T? How do you find the right person internally? Do you work through third parties? I think the one thing that I learned in my time running business development, especially when you're dealing with larger companies, is their motivation is to sell their product. And you need to find a way to show that by partnering with you, you can help them sell more of their product. They're not interested in selling your product. In times where I've seen people enter into relationships where a large sales organization, an Oracle or an AT&T is going to resell their product, it almost never works. The sales teams inside those companies, I think I looked at the rate sheet that AT&T had at the time for their products, had over 300 products on it. Those people are struggling just to learn their own products. They're not going to do any kind of selling for you. So find a way to show that you can help pull their product along, which was what we were able to do. And then internally, you need to find a champion who understands where your product fits in their ecosystem and buys into the fact that you can help pull some of their product through the channel. That can take a long time and a number of conversations. And I'd say, start with a network of people you know. I have people reach out to me every day for introductions across the network of people that I work with. I'm always happy to get people in touch. But if you want an introduction, you need to be able to explain why, what the value is to the person that I'm introducing you to, and then what your commitment is going forward from there. But I'd say I had no fewer than 30 conversations with various people at AT&T before we got into that. Similar type, I did a licensing relationship with IBM that was actually very successful and led to the acquisition of the company. Probably 25 conversations before I finally got introduced to John Thompson, the guy who ran the software division of IBM. So you just have to be persistent, and you have to understand the motivation of the people that you're talking to. Did that get at what you were? So the question is, are you better off, sticking to companies that are in a similar stage that you are? The problem is when you're very small, other very small companies probably don't give you the kind of leverage that a larger company will. It'll be easier to get a deal done, but the exposure that they can bring, the market they can bring, the customers they can bring isn't going to be as big. What I tend to try and focus on is fast-growing, medium-sized companies where they're more open to doing things. They don't have the bureaucracy that a large company will have, and you're betting to some degree that you'll grow alongside them. So you're looking for somebody, that's doing well, has got a lot of visibility, not somebody, in this case, I hate to pick on AT&T, but kind of an old tired company that was looking for something to do.
all you have to do is put us in front of your audience. How do we structure that relation? I mean, like, aside from just take 20%, how do we get them excited and interested in it?
Do they have a sales team? How do they?
Yeah, I mean, it's a well-oiled, like, they're a big nonprofit. They're in constant contact with the people. They have a membership base for fundraising. And not just fundraising, they have membership services, all that stuff.
So the question is, she's got a particular situation with a large nonprofit that has an audience that she would like to tap into, and believes that they can structure a relationship where some of the proceeds from the sale will go back to the nonprofit. I've structured a few deals like this, and I think that the most important thing, and the reason I asked whether they had a sales team or not, is motivating that frontline person who's making the sale is the key. So if 20% goes back to the company, but that salesperson or that fundraising person doesn't see any added incentive, the program's not going to go anywhere. And so the ones that I've structured that have been successful is we had an agreement up front that if I provided 20% to them, the salesperson who closed the deal got 6% of that, guaranteed. So that there was an incentive to the feet on the street to go out and try and open up the money. Usually for the company, 20% of a sale that I generate is immaterial to the company, so it's not going to get any attention. But if I can get 6% directly in the hands of the salesperson who's closing that deal, all of a sudden I've got motivation, right? And they want to listen and they want to do things. So figuring out how you incent the person that's going to get the deal done is key in that case. Well, you structure it as part of the relationship with the company, and they're going to, depending on how they motivate those people. So in the way it would be done is you're not actually paying the people inside the nonprofit's paying their people. You just have an agreement with them to carve out some of that to go directly to the person on the end. One of the misnomers about nonprofits is people that work there don't make a lot of money. Some of the people that I know that make the most money are people that fundraise for nonprofits. So nonprofits, the people that work at nonprofits aren't doing it out of the goodness of their heart usually. There's all kinds of different versions of what a BD model can look like. What kind of products?
Like a partner's business. Kind of like for example, you have sales, and then you have other companies you can partner with to sell to them.
Yeah. So reselling through a third-party business partner. Okay, so the question was just comments or suggestions around structuring things in a B2B type where a third party is reselling your product. I'd go back to kind of the same thing I said before. The key to those is two things. One, if you can show how selling more of your product pulls along that third party's products, right? That's a good thing, and we'll get motivation. And then if you can structure a deal where the salespeople for your partner are getting compensated at least as well, if not better, than what they get compensated on their own sales, that you'll be successful there. So you've got to find a way to motivate those salespeople in the third party. So I mean, typically what I would try and do in that case is enter into what would be kind of a standard reseller agreement where they would sell on behalf of the company, we would provide the product, and then some percentage of that sale would go back to the company. You can also, so that's sort of a contingent resale model. You can also do a resale model where you actually sell to that company and they take inventory position and they bill the customer. Those typically become a lot more complicated. So the first one, where they're acting as an agent of yours, does two things. It allows you to maintain a relationship with the end customer in the end, right? And it makes the deal less complicated from a revenue perspective.
So
direct to right enterprise, and it feels like doing the business development takes up an inordinate amount of our time. So thanks for the answer about the VP of sales. Would it make more sense to hire like a junior, like SDR type person to deal with some of that logistics? Like it's the sending 10 emails to get the first meeting that just takes up a ton of time. How do you recommend solving that and sort of the skill?
So, and you're two people. What kind of products do you have?
Security.
Okay.
But we already have some like Lockheed. We're running at Lockheed. We sold to Lockheed, sold to the Gates Foundation. So we have some big customers. It's
Yep.
just that a lot of logistics time that goes into these deals.
Yeah. So the question was, following on from, when do you hire a VP of sales about, bringing somebody in-house to handle some of that logistics? Yeah, I think where I would start with that, especially in the security space, is find somebody who's had a senior inside sales role in a security company so they can speak the language, they understand what the issues are, and bring them in-house, have them handle those types of things, because they can do a lot of the pre-selling for you, and they're senior enough, and there's an opportunity for them to potentially grow into a bigger role as you grow as a company. But I've always started with inside sales, regardless of what the business model looked like, because eventually, if you're that small a company and you're going to go sell to Lockheed, you and your co-founder are going to have to go close that sale, right? They're not going to take a VP of sales no matter how good and slick they may be. So you might as well start with somebody that's going to fill an inside sales role, and their job is to do that pre-sale work for you. All right, I'm going to wrap up now because Andy Jassy's Fireside Chat starting in 4 minutes, and so if you want to head on out, head over there and check that out. I appreciate your time, and thanks very much.